Okay, I see we still have people coming in, but for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me start off by saying that this is a great day for Newport News Shipbuilding. Would you say the same? Yes. All right, come on. I mean, come on. In church, I would accept that, but come on. Today is an awesome day, and certainly my name is Ray Bagley. I'm privileged to be the Vice President of Trades Operations, and it is my distinct pleasure, along with my boss and my peers here, to welcome you to this event today. We really wanted to do this, and I got to be honest with you, we took this from Ingalls. I had a chance to go to Ingalls last year and witness my first MLK event. I was privileged to be their speaker. Susan, who's on the end, she is from Ingalls, so she knows about it. She's very intimately involved with it. And when I left Ingalls, they had a choir. They had the whole nine. And I told Xavier Bill on the plane, I said, we have to take that back to Newport News. So today, we get a chance to have our very first MLK event. All right, so let's talk about what's in front of us. So Monday is the day that our nation comes together to celebrate a man who had a tremendous vision. He was not only just any man, he was a man who was bold, he was innovative, he was courageous, and he was persistent in his effort. He believed that people should not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the very content of their character. But yet today, all these years later, if I'm going to stand and be honest with you, we still have some of those struggles. All right, amen, corner, quiet down. But so you got to ask yourself, this is the beginning of something great. So what do we do about it? Just saying yes and amen about it is a start, and today is a start. But you may want to talk about what do we do about it. So here at the shipyard, let me just say that I'm proud to say that in the behalf of Matt, which he'll talk about it, we are in the midst of a very aggressive and adventurous campaign. And I tell you, I've been here 42 years, and I've never seen it the way that I see it today. That we have a leader that I'm privileged to be a part or to work for and be a part of a senior staff, that we truly care about the people. Please do not say amen on that one, not yet, because it's probably not an amen, it's probably some boos. But let me just tell you from the top, we care about you. But we on this journey, on this campaign, where we are looking at being inclusive and we're looking at diversity from a very, very different perspective. So in my candidness today, the words inclusion and diversity, they have been met with some negative reactions, just to be honest. They have been considered taboo subjects that we would avoid and not talk about in the past. But these are things that we're going to have to face. In other words, we're going to have to address the issue and really make a change, and we want it, and we need, and we have to start today facing it head on. So if you haven't started this journey, we encourage you to be on this journey with us. If you have, I would ask you to continue. And if you don't want to get on this journey, then I would ask you, the peers who see that person, get them off the bus. So Dr. King once said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. Think about that. Your life begins to end the day that you become silent about things that matter. So our theme, that we believe that we have the power to make a change. Let me just say, I believe that we have the power to make a change. I hope you believe that we have a power to make a change. And throughout 2017, I'm going to ask you to be a part of this journey with us as we make a change in Newport News Shipbuilding for this company, this great company to go from where we are today to greater and from greater to excellence. And then after that, you describe the word that you want us to be. So, having an honest conversation is the right step, or I should say the step in the right direction, and it's why we are here today and why you'll be hearing more about this in the future to come. So let me just say and conclude by saying that I am honored, tremendously honored. Believe it or not, I'm having a tough time expressing myself. This is just so overwhelming for me today to see you here and to have the company supporting an initiative like this, which really is centered around you. So without further ado, I want to introduce our very own Newport News Shipbuilding Choir.
Very nicely done.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us far, far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Newport News Choir.
Beautiful. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, great response. I'm Leon Reynolds, and I'm happy to be here as the past president of the African American Shipbuilders Association. I thank all of you for coming out today. Really do. It's a great showing. And also, we have some senior leaders present that we're thankful for them coming out today to celebrate our MLK, our first MLK celebration. I want to take this opportunity to especially recognize our new Vice President of Human Resources and Administration. That would be Susan Jacobs. Susan Jacobs, Ray Bagley, and our president, Matt Mohiran, are the sponsors of this great event, and along with the Inclusion and Diversity Council. So let's, again, let's give them a round of applause for having this. This was a huge effort, and as you know, which this is off script, but there was a charge for all of you. There's food that's provided, and it's a situation where we can come together and talk about power for a change. And we haven't had anything like this here. So we're thankful for our president who made this happen, along with Susan Jacobs, Ray Bagley, and the Inclusion and Diversity Council. Okay, so now it's even a greater honor for me to introduce our keynote speaker for this event today. It's Ms. Kelly Walker. Kelly Walker serves as Executive Vice President and General Counsel for Huntington Ingalls Industries. She has the overall leadership responsibility for HII's law department and outside counsel, which provides a broad range of legal advice and support for the company's business activities, such as mergers and acquisitions, corporate governance, compliance, and litigation management. So please, let's put our hands together for the Chief Legal Officer, Kelly Walker.
Thanks, Leon, very much. Well, good afternoon. I tell you, it is such an honor and a pleasure for me to be here, to be asked to address you guys as we celebrate Martin Luther King Day. And it's especially important for me while the company, as Ray mentioned, is in a time in its history where we are focused on diversity and inclusion. So that's incredible. So I thank you for being here, and thank you guys for inviting me to share with you today. You know, when I thought about what I wanted to say when I had a chance to be up here and talk to you guys, I said, okay, Kelly, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? And I said, no, I don't need to think about it from the perspective of what I'm going to say. I want to think about it from the perspective of what I want you guys to hear. So when you go back to your areas of work, what do I want on your minds when we leave here? So I want everybody to leave here with a question in their mind, okay? And that question is, have you seized your moment? So when everybody leaves here, I want you to think, have you seized your moment? Now, obviously, we're here in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, who is an extraordinary person. And when I thought about it, I spent a lot of time thinking about Dr. King and all of his writings and his speeches. And I thought that maybe I could get up here and try to impress you guys by quoting something from one of his speeches and say, I have a dream. But I said, nah, that's probably not a good thing to do. But what I did think about was Dr. King, the person. What made him who he was? What gave him the courage to stand up and do the things that he did? What gave him the courage to listen to every voice? Listen to that least in power voice. And when he heard what that voice said, he had the courage to speak truth to power about what he heard. What gave him that? So I said, well, I don't want to really just focus on his writings. I don't want to really just focus on his speeches. But let's take a look at his actions. What did he do? Okay? And when I really did a little bit of research on history, I think it comes down to that question I asked you. He decided he was going to seize a moment and do the right thing, even when it wasn't popular. Okay? So let me break it down a little bit. So let's take a walk back in history and go back to December 1955. And we all know what happened then. That was the time when Rosa Parks decided she was not going to give up her seat to a white passenger on the bus in Montgomery, Alabama, okay? And we know history tells us that a whole lot sparked from that. One of the things that happened when they realized that this was a really important time is they decided to have a boycott, all right? And the leaders in Montgomery, most of whom at that time, the black leaders, were ministers in the area. And so they got together and they said, okay, we're gonna have this boycott, but we know this is not gonna be popular. It's gonna cause some problems. People aren't gonna be able to get to work. They're not gonna be able to get to the stores. We're gonna be messing with the economics of the city. And you know when you start messing with people's money, it's not a good thing, right? So they knew this would be a challenge. And so they said, okay, are you gonna do it? I don't wanna do it. Are you gonna do it? No. So what they said is they created this thing called the Montgomery Improvement Association. And this association was going to be the thing that actually led the boycott. Now, at the time, Dr. King was in Montgomery. He had just been there about a year, and he was a young preacher at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church there. He was a part of this group that was thinking about this, and they had this organization that I just talked about, but they realized they still needed somebody to lead the organization. So some stories say that some of the more senior guys said, we don't want to do that because it's really going to cause some problems. And they talked to Dr. King, and Dr. King, now nobody would have blamed him. He was young. He had just been there for about a year. He didn't grow up in Montgomery, right? He was trying to build his church. But he said, okay, this may be unpopular. It may be hard. But you know what? I'll take the lead on this thing. So if you think about all that happened after that, now, a lot of people say that that was what sparked the civil rights movement. If you think about all that happened after that, one man seizing one moment changed the world. Okay? So what does this have to do with us? We're not Dr. King. I'm not Dr. King. You guys aren't Dr. King. But we're very similar to Dr. King. Every one of us has had a moment. Every one of us has had a moment. Some of us have had big moments. Some of us have had small moments. But every single person in here has had at least one moment. All right, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to share a little bit of myself, okay? Do a little bit of self-disclosure, and talk to you about my moment to hopefully make it real for us, okay? My moment, let's see, I'm 50 years old, so my moment happened about 42 years ago when I was 8, okay? So it's a long time ago. So it was one day after school, just like any old day, and then when I would get out of school, I would walk to the office building where my dad worked. And so I walked to the building, and I would have to go through the lobby of this building, which was fine, except every time I went through the lobby of this building, there was a guy sitting over in the corner that I called the Candy Monster. And I called him that because he sold candy, but he was this big old guy, and he sat in this chair, and his clothes were all dirty, and I was scared of him. He had a scowl on his face, and I was 8 years old. So I was absolutely sure that he hated kids. Nobody who looked like that different from me, could like kids, okay? So I knew he hated kids. It was torture for me because I love chocolate. And when he sat in his old raggedy chair in the corner, he had boxes of chocolate all around him. He had M&Ms, he had Kit Kats, he had Hershey bars, plain and almond, right? He had every kind of candy that you could want. But I was scared to death of him. So when I would walk through that lobby every day, I would make sure I did not make eye contact with him because I was sure that if I did, I would turn to stone or something bad would happen to me. He was on this side, I would make sure I walk on this side of the lobby because I figured his long arms could reach out and grab me, right? I really was afraid of this guy, and the whole thing was torture because I love chocolate. I got this Candy Monster who's keeping me from getting the chocolate, and I knew my dad didn't want me to have chocolate anyway because it would spoil my dinner. All right. So on this day, I went upstairs, talked to my dad. He said, oh, Kelly, I want you to go down to the car and get something out of the car. Now, I was not happy about this because that meant I had to do what? Go right past the Candy Monster, okay? We're in the shipyard. How long does this go on? Okay. So I did. So I, gathered myself, and I went back down the elevator, and I got off the elevator. But as I got there, I heard this noise, and it was coming from the area where this Candy Monster sat. And I saw there were some kids over there, like they were negotiating with the Candy Monster, right? And so I said, okay. And as I took a few more steps forward, though, I realized they weren't negotiating with him. They were running a scam on him, okay? there were a couple of kids, I got a little closer, there were a couple of kids who were taking advantage of the fact that he really couldn't get out of that chair. It was in that moment that I realized the candy monster actually was blind. So you had a couple of kids on one side of him distracting him. Some other kids were on the other side of him stealing his candy. Okay, so they were running a scam on somebody who was in a situation that was a less fortunate situation than them. They were running a scam on somebody who was different from them. I saw this. I could figure it out, okay? Something bad was going on here. So what's that for me? That was my moment. That was my moment. I knew something bad was going on. I saw these kids were doing something, taking advantage of somebody. So what do you think I did in that moment? Told my father. What else? What do you think I did? Anybody else? Absolutely. I seized my moment. You know what I did? I stole a candy bar. I did. I stole a candy bar. And I rationalized it in my head because I said, look, I'm not the bad actor. That was their scam, right? I'm just going to take a little advantage of what's going on over there, okay? I stole a candy bar, and then I went on to the car, got what my dad wanted. I sat in the candy bar, and I ate it, and it was so good. It was a Snickers bar. I'll never forget it. It was so good. I ate that candy bar, okay? Now, we're back up. My dad, we come back down. It's time to go home. He grabs my hand. We walk out of the elevator, and we start walking like we do every other day. And it seemed like everything was in slow motion. We were down in that lobby. I'm walking and walking. And then I realized we are actually walking toward the candy monster. My dad walked me right in front of the candy monster. He summarily put his hand in his pocket. He picked out a quarter. Now, this is 1974, so candy bars were a quarter. He picked out a quarter and gave it to the candy monster and said, Kelly, you sit here and you admit what you did, and you apologize to Mr. Hughes. Okay? First time I ever knew the man's name, that was Mr. Hughes. I was mortified. So in fact, that was my moment. It was my moment because it was in that moment I realized that I had made a poor decision and had disappointed somebody I loved and who loved me. It was in that moment that I realized I had taken advantage of a bad situation. It was in that moment that I realized that I had not only humiliated myself, I humiliated my father and my family. It was the worst time of my life to that point. And I say that because we all have a moment. Now, if the story was a really good story, my real moment would have been what you guys said, right? I would have told my dad, or I would have done something, the right thing to do, but I didn't. Fortunately for me, that moment didn't have huge, dire consequences because of my bad decision. But it taught me something. It wasn't a huge moment, but it taught me something about myself because of that moment. I decided from that point on, I wanted to live a life of honesty and integrity. Because of how I felt in that bad moment, I decided I wanted to live a life where I always respected people who were different from me, people who I didn't understand, people who I didn't know. I, in that moment, decided that I wanted to live a respectable life so that the people who I care about and who care about me could always be proud. Okay? So now, did my moment make the history books like Dr. King's? Absolutely not. But that moment changed my life. And hopefully in the 42 years since that moment, I have, through what I decided, touched at least one life in a positive way. So I ask you to think about your moment. We all have them. In fact, I would say everybody has a moment, at least one every single day. And if you seize your moment to do the right thing, you might change a person's mind about something. You might change an attitude for the positive about something. And if you, seizing your moment, change someone's attitude for the better, that can in turn change a community, which can in turn change a nation, which can in turn change the world. So as we think about Dr. Martin Luther King and what he did, I say let us all be like Dr. King, and let us all seize our moment and change the world. Thank you.
Story thought you would say. Hey, thanks so much. It's my job to wrap this up, and just first I want to thank everybody for being here today. I want to thank our choir. I mean, that's awesome. We have a lot of events, and we can, with your permission, put you to good use into the future. Kelly, that's not how that story I thought was going to go. In my mind, I was thinking, steal a candy bar, but I said no. But no, a great story and something really to make us all think. And that's kind of my message to you. And I have a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King where it says, "We may have all come on different ships, but we're all in the same boat now." You know, pretty appropriate for a bunch of shipbuilders, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, we may be 20,000 people, and my goal, our goal, the objective of inclusion and diversity is to create inside the green gates of Newport News Shipbuilding the most inclusive place we can be, where everybody's voice is heard, everybody's opinion counts. It doesn't matter who you are, what, you know, are you a mechanic or a vice president or a president? We all have a voice. We all ought to voice our opinion. We ought to all treat each other civilly as decent people. And, you know, if we do that in here, and I'm not making a huge political statement or anything, if 20,000 people do that in here, we can affect the 1.7 million people who live in the Hampton Roads area, that affects the state of Virginia, that affects civility that this nation needs today. So I'll leave you with that. We have councils, we have lots of opportunity. Seize the moment, and thanks for coming. Enjoy your Monday off, but think about some of the challenges that we put out there to you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Shake the choir's hand. You guys